last CampHacker, you know that we thought about what programs you don't want, or at least the ones we don't want, and don't recommend. But now I want to think about programs you do want and how you decide which ones are the best. Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast brought to you by UltraCamp and 5 Minute Fridays. My name is Travis Allison. I am a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm a camp consultant and the founder and director of Camp Highlight, a sleepaway camp for kids who have LGBTQ parents. Everyone agrees that is the best camp ever.
Exactly. Camp Highlight's the best camp ever. And I work at Camp Waro, which is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains. And we focus on creating a positive environment for gender minorities.
And my name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams, which is a summer camp and retreat facility that is part of the United Church of Canada's larger camping network. And we are located about halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Today, actually, before we start, I want to say once again that it is great for us to get reviews. I appreciate the ones that get emailed to us. It helps us sort of focus our topics on what you want, etc. But we made it easy. So if you go to ratethispodcast.com/camp, you can click the ratings and reviews button there, and your ratings and reviews will go to lots of different places. So in essence, this is a continuation of the last podcast we recorded talking about smart programs at camp. This one we're talking about smart programs in your future. And I want to open this up by thinking of some of the things that I am telling my clients to think about when they're planning strategically, when they're thinking long term. First of all, you need to make time to do that. There are so many camp people I know are like, I just got to make it to the summer. And then in September, they're like, I just got to make it to next summer. And they're not setting aside the time. They're not giving themselves the space. And I get it. That's hard, but it's incredibly important. So make the time to think about this and consider these things. But here's some of the things that I'm telling people to watch out for. Number one, climate change. We have to be prepared to run camp in extreme heat and extreme storms. We have to be ready for that. And I used to say, in 10 years, you're going to have to be ready for it. And the answer is no, you got to be ready next summer. This coming summer, you have to be ready for extreme heat and extreme storms. And definitely a changing demographic as sort of the population is getting older. I think it's an opportunity for us to think about changing demographics. Definitely consideration of how your programs can potentially affect people's mental health. If they don't have, if they're not in a great place, then some of the more challenging programs can be harmful in lots of ways. And finally, the other thing that I've been talking to folks about is that our staff and campers are less fit than they used to be. They're less used to running and jumping and doing all those things. And that's a consideration for lots of programs. And there's some interesting studies, certainly that come out of the Australian Camp Association about the direct impact on their programs of this. I would encourage you to check that out. I've talked about them on the show before. But that to me, those are the big things that I'm thinking about and talking to people about as we discuss this topic. Are there any other considerations, Chris, that you would think of that, you're thinking of the future? And
Yeah, and I'm always the therapy guy, because I'm a social worker, right? So I'm always thinking about mental health, and I'm always thinking about social emotional learning, and so I'm always talking on here about being intentional about your programming, always thinking clearly about what the goals are. And I think when I think about programs going forward, and I look at the kids now and how they're doing after the last 3 years, I think and something that we are considering as well, building basics into our program. I think I talked about this in connection to another topic, but especially our staff and our young people, given the isolation that they've had, they have missed just some basic sort of things. For staff, how does one attend a meeting? What is a meeting? What do we do in it? That kind of orientation needs to be in our trainings. And some people are like, that's so elementary. We have so many things to do, so many things to layer on top. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the foundation, you're not going to get to those things anyway, or you're going to wonder why your staff is underperforming. Real quick on this, I don't want to go on too long, but real quick on this, Once upon a time, I used to be a teacher, and a teacher in the Bronx in New York City. And it was 6th grade, and then kids have to learn how to write business letters. Half my kids couldn't read. So we did phonics, and the principal's like, you got to do business letters. I'm like, what are you talking about? They don't know what sounds letters make. So this is what I'm giving. Like, I feel like I'm going to get to programs in a second, because I'm talking about staff, but that's what I'm saying on the other side as well. Like, getting back to basics, getting kids together and talking to them directly about what it means to live together, what it means to live together, and what it means to play and work together. So I think whatever programs come up, I think that has to be at the beginning and the base of it.
Just before you move to programs, Chris, the other thing I think that adds on to that, like, what is a job? What does it mean to be an employee?
What are your expectations? These are our expectations.
Right. And that's going to come up a lot today, expectations for sure. And even in our next show, there's going to be lots on expectations. So, yeah.
So that's the thing. And then just really briefly to wrap up, getting back to programs, like, I think whatever it is, whatever you're already doing, right? Arts and crafts, soccer, all that other stuff, taking 5 minutes in the beginning just to talk about, hey, what's important to remember as we play soccer? Like, what's important? Call it out. Cooperation. Why is cooperation important? Responsibility. Why is that important? Like, having the kids name check that will go a long way to, like, setting an environment and creating a culture where these things are being talked about. Yeah. I always have to say this to clients too. I'm not saying you should run therapy camp, but encouraging kids in their social emotional learning journey is not therapy. It's what we are doing as, like, people who work with children and educators.
Mm-hmm. It's acknowledging their needs too.
Absolutely.
Yep. What are you thinking, Gab?
I was thinking, to build on what Chris is saying, with setting expectations before program and even breaking it down even more. You can say, like, what does cooperation look like? What do we hear? What do you feel inside when cooperation happens? And I think that I think we have there's such a power at camp, because so much is experiential, and being able to reflect on our experiences is such a fundamental tool for learning. And if we're talking about staff members getting back to basics, I think, Chris, you're really hitting on something. And to the point of Travis before, I just have to get to the summer. I just have to, because we're trying to level our staff, to not level them up. We're trying to get them to level baseline. Well, if we're starting with our campers, if we're putting in that energy with our campers, in the next 3-4 years, they're going to be your staff members. So taking that time, and it doesn't have to be for every activity, but if you help lead, let's say, a camp program, you can facilitate those type of conversations just within the group. So having little reflections before and after, I think, is really, really helpful. And you can also look at gratitude at the end. I'm really grateful for so-and-so for doing this. I'm really proud of myself for, and of course we want to build up to that. Sometimes it's difficult to say what we're proud of for ourselves, but it's easy to say thank you to somebody else. So we can sort of build in that type of way. And I think when we're looking at programs, sometimes we think, okay, we have to reinvent everything. It's more like taking what you already have and saying, what are the needs of our campers? What are the needs of our staff? And I think for me, looking at the needs of our staff, every year I'm trying to see, how can I provide more time for our staff? Not necessarily just time off, but maybe quality time with a leadership team member, maybe problem solving time, maybe this type of stuff. So what kind of programs can we pare down where we don't need as much staff involvement, so that we can take them out of those programs? Not that the program's self-sufficient, but there's just less staff that are able to run that program. So simultaneously we can have some time with staff members. So just being a little bit more efficient with the energy that we're putting into the programs, and seeing, is there a way that we can sort of have our staff not all have to always be participating in every single program, so that we're giving them either time off or problem solving time or learning time.
I want to just add, at Camp Highlight, the reflection, we do it, we call it the reflection at the beginning and the wrap up at the end. That's what it is. It's a discussion, no matter what it is. We don't do it before meals. We do it before the first meal. But no matter what it is, every activity, anytime we get their attention, we talk about, okay, what do we need to do for this? Like, what do we need to think about as a group? And they're just so used to it. Like after they play soccer, after they do whatever, they all get back together because they're expecting this conversation. Afterwards, it's like, how do you think we did? We talked about cooperation being important. Did you all cooperate? Like, how could we do better or worse next time? And again, that's like, that's chef's kiss SEL. But also, I think, like you said, Gabs, it really speaks to the needs of where our campers are today. Like they need that. And not for nothing, I did this training yesterday on behavior management, and like, children are extremely self-centered and lack empathy.
Yes.
By nature.
Yeah.
And if camp isn't the place to like instill and teach that, there honestly is no other place. So like, it's something that I think that we have to take really seriously when we think about our programs. So I'm just pitching SEL, and I will continue to do so.
I think that also comes back to something Joe said last episode, the Seth Godin question, what's it for? So we're examining everything under, what are we doing this for? And I'm perfectly willing to accept we're doing this so kids get a chance to be silly and unselfconscious. Great. Like that is an amazing goal, but asking yourself that question too. Look like, yeah, Gab, you thought you had something.
Well, I think every time you're making any changes or adjustments, you have to refer back to your mission. I think that, what's this for is a great way of looking at it. The climate change is something that you've brought up in past podcasts, and it's something that really resonates in my head, and in a panicked way, which I think is a good thing, because it might help with some action. But sometimes we lead with panic. So we lead with, staff need more time off, or kids are stressed out. And instead of leading with panic, it's allowing those thoughts to be there, but looking at your mission and how is that connecting to the mission and to the needs of the campers. So the Joe point is, what's it for? Connect that to your mission first, and then you can make your adjustments.
Yeah. Yep. Another factor that I forgot to say that I'm asking people to consider is the technological adjustment of camp. And what it's like in the first 48 hours to, some camps are not making folks get rid of their phones, but just changing the rules around them.
I wanted to talk about
and the expectations around them. Well, do you want to pick that up then, Chris? I'd love to hear what you think.
Listen, I have been doing this for over 30 years, right? And when I started this, it was like you went to camp. It was a magical place. We didn't have the connectivity. You completely disconnected, and then you re-entered the new world, your world, and it was the adjustment was like, what? Like there were things that happened. I remember I was at camp when Ronald Reagan died, and I came back and I was like, everyone was like, "Oh my God, did you hear the president died?" I said, "What?" Like the fact that I wouldn't have known until I got home. It's such a different world now, and I've been to camps where they have like computers in like the coding lab, and the computers are internet connected, and the kids can go in there and they're doing what they need to do, but they can also slide onto the internet. And I always have to challenge myself, because I think there's a preference for doing things the way they've always been done. We use that as an excuse for everything. And especially when it comes to like camp, which is so steeped in tradition, I think as we get older, we keep telling ourselves that, well, this is the way I've been doing it since I was 19. So it worked for me then, it should work now. It's not, and I say this to parents all the time. I don't know, and I'm very interested in your opinions about this, but like, when my friends and stuff say like, oh, so-and-so, their kids did poorly, and so I took all their devices. I'm like, you can't do that nowadays. I was like, they have social relationships on those things. It's tantamount to you completely isolating them. And I was like, that's just not good for their mental health. Like, we're not talking about a timeout that lasts 2 hours. You take phones and tablets for a week and a half, like they have zero contact with people. It's, you can't, that is their going out and playing. And so I've been really struggling with this as far as like, when I go to bigger, richer camps and I see all the technology that they have at the kids' disposal, I love it. Teaching coding skills, STEM, love that. Is camp the place for it? I want to say yes, because it's kids, it's education, it's fun, but like, does it change fundamentally for you too? Does it change fundamentally what we are doing otherwise? This is a question I've been asking myself for like 3 years.
I think camps have evolved so much over the past 20 years, 30 years. And even I'll speak from a private camp perspective. I think private camps sometimes hold on to almost the monopoly of not change. And a lot of private camps have longer sessions. So when I was a camper, you came for a month or 2 months. That was the thing. And I remember when the shift happened for us to go to a 2-week program, it was really threatening to the values of the organization of building relationships. It was really threatening to the type of programming that we would have, the sort of escape from the outside world. But the reality is that what it really was is more inclusive to families that might not be able to afford the camp itself, B, for families that have other plans or come from families where the kid has multiple parents, share time, et cetera, et cetera. So the reality is, like, who are we excluding when we're not allowing technology at camp? I'll be very transparent. We advertise as a unplugged program, and I'm not saying that that we should or shouldn't, but I think that it's important to explore not only the value system within the people that are on your camp, but the people that are not on your camp, and how are these decisions excluding those individuals. And I think sometimes it's a matter of, instead of looking at it as a value system, look at it as a problem. What are the problems that could arise? And so the problems that maybe off the top of my head is staff members not paying attention to the campers because they have access to their phones. Campers having conversations with families instead of with us, and building that relationship so that we can problem solve. Not able to disconnect and get that separation from school and those pressures, et cetera, et cetera. But it's taking all of those issues that you're nervous about and doing the distance with them and saying, how could we solve these problems? Because I think sometimes values and I don't know how to do this well gets confused. And I think maybe put values aside for a second and see if it's actually an issue, or is it truly a value system? Because if we can teach campers and staff members to pay attention to their bodies when they're starting to get stressed on their screen, or if we can teach them to trust themselves, that this is stuff that I'm asking myself as well.
That's really, that's a lot to think about. This might be off topic. But like, just listening to you, Gabs, like, are we trying to do too much? Do you know what I mean? Like, are we trying to, we're doing these reflections, or doing SEL, like we're doing like checking in like meditative stuff with your body. Are we trying to do too much with these programs? That's an open question. I'm serious. Are we trying to do too much?
I think you're trying to do too much if you're trying to do it all. But I think that sometimes for me, what's too much is when I'm not asking myself these questions.
Fair.
And the more, and there becomes more and more of this, almost this wall in between me and my staff, me and my clients, because I'm standing and saying, no, this is the way it should be, because I know. And I think that actually is much more of a weight on myself personally than sitting down and having these conversations, because it's not like it's not like it's not thought of, and it's not like parents don't, there's some parents that want to have more, conversation or communication, and I'm not against it. I think that it's, for me, that's what's heavy, is it's not exploring these things. Me putting up a brick wall is what's exhausting, but yes, we do a lot.
We ask a lot of our staff.
Yes.
And I don't think we do a very good job of acknowledging that being a camp counselor is way harder than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Which I think as we think about new kinds of programs, I think that's something that we have to tackle, Travis. Like, I don't want to say being honest about what the job entails, but I feel as if we have been, as an industry, we've been like yada yada yadaing about what being a camp counselor is, and where where there was very much a time where it was like babysitting. Now it's educator, it's game show host, it's sounding board,
Therapist
it's mental health first aid, EMT, and I feel like we need to communicate that more. I think every camp director, as they prepare this, then 'tis the season to like start hiring. Like, I think it's really pitching the job that they will be doing, that you expect them to do. And as we're talking about new programs, and as everyone should be thinking about how do we evolve and grow, we got to think about how that job description is going to evolve and grow as well. Because we do not want people having 2002 ideas what a camp counselor is, signing up for a program now. They're going to be so lost, they're going to be burnt out. And, I can talk about staffing all day, but we want staff to have a good experience if we want to have programs at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to change our focus a little bit. Although obviously this is a very important part of this discussion, but what are some activities that you're thinking about, watching, considering? We've talked about how we would consider them and, what factors would be for us. Are there any activities or programs or any of that stuff that you're thinking about, that you've seen outside camp? Anything? What do you got? Gab?
I'm thinking, I have the knots. I think anything that requires outside evaluation to come and check the ropes or check the equipment or check the gear, start to limit some of those things. Anything that takes extra training for your staff, start to limit some of those things. I love our rock climbing wall. I love our waterfront. We're probably going to keep. I like it. It's great. We have with our CIT program, you need to have your bronze cross. That's a pre-lifeguard to join. So we have lifeguards built in, but as a whole, there are certain programs that the upkeep is just taking too much space, and then real estate as well. So tennis was pretty big in the 80s and the 70s within our camp. It's not anymore, really. And I want to get rid of I don't want to get rid of the courts, but I'm looking at a whole bunch of different options for the courts that we can do that could be really, really cool. And then there's really easy, I don't want to say lame, because it's not lame at all, but there's really easy programs that can be tagged on to other programs. So for example, our drama program, started a production program, 5 years ago. It's all recycling stuff. And it was the drama head that started it. She created a list, I need a clock, I need a door, I need a this. And we just gave the kids a bunch of stuff. Now the clock was 7 times too big. The door was 2 times too small, which actually looked quite artistic on stage, but they loved it because they had freedom. They could express themselves. It was for the kids that didn't really want to be on stage, but love seeing their stuff on stage. I think I'm describing myself actually right now. And I was I always thought, okay, I need to buy the kayaks, the canoes, and here was just a bunch of recycling and a little space. And it's one of our most popular activities right now. And it takes just a couple of staff members. And the kids can have free creative expression.
Let their creative mind go. Love it.
Problem solving, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, I'm limiting the outside need and trying to see if we can piggyback off of a couple of programs that we already have. And instead of our programming team having to create these props, the kids are doing it and they love it.
Yeah. Amazing. Listen, about your tennis courts, Gab, you cannot go wrong by serving pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball. I think
everyone loves pickleball.
Everybody loves pickleball.
Lots of people like it. My parents love it, and we all know how old I am. But it is definitely coming down in age, and it is also much less. It's just more open to people, so it's inexpensive, and people of all different ages and backgrounds are enjoying it. And pickleball is coming huge. There's now a pickleball professional league and pickleball on TV.
Pickleball is and it's easy to do, and it's but Chris, if you have something to add. I have also a couple of other programs that just popped in my head.
Well, I was just really vibing with what you're saying. I come from my camp tradition has always been it's always been like, we have a bunch of tissue paper rolls, we have a fake first stole, and we have a bunch of glitter. Let's put on a show. Like, that is my camp tradition. Like, I started working in camps that had negative budget. Like, I paid to be there. Like, you know what I mean? So, in the past many years, I've always looked at camps, when I visited camps that have like full equestrian ranges and Olympic sized gymnastic facilities. And I'm always like, this is great. What a great experience. But I don't know if kids need this to have a great experience. If you're listening to this and you've already spent money and all that stuff, okay. No, I'm not saying it's bad. But what I'm saying is that, everything you said, Gabs, is that sometimes when we create a space where campers can be creative, we call things out of them that if you just usher them into a gymnastics studio or like a test kitchen or like, whatever, a coding lab, that you kind of lose. All those things are super valuable skills. I love that. But sometimes I think that some people, when they think about programs, they feel like they have to compete with what kids are doing at home on their screens or on their Xboxes and stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be this complicated, because they are so inundated with like video and audio images. Like, going like full left from that is going to be exciting to them. You can't not compete with the entertainment sphere that they are exposed to when they're not at camp. There was something else that I wanted to add, but I think I'm going to wait. You go, Gabs, and then I'm going to think about what I was thinking about.
Can I just add something onto Chris Gabs before you? And maybe, no, I mean, we should definitely acknowledge that sort of the mindset of the four of us is often scrappy, get things done camps. And, maybe Howie and Kelly do some more of this on the Camp Owners Pod. But I'm curious if some of those big expensive programs are the ones that make money. And so that's like, camps are like, well, I'm going to keep offering it because it makes money, which is fair.
Of course, that's fair. And I would never take that or
no.
judge anyone.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying maybe the four of us aren't good enough at answering those things because our mindset is all sort of scrappy, creative, which is a different focus.
There is one more thing I wanted to say, because I was just remembered about inclusivity. Sports especially can be really gatekeeping, not just ability. I don't mean ability to play the sport, like if you're good at basketball or soccer, but just like fine and large motor skills for kids sometimes can be really challenging. And there are so many options over doing organized sports, so many different kind of games. Don't ask me about games. I know about all of them, but there's so many things that we can craft that aren't like, okay, let's go down to the basketball courts, let's play basketball, or let's play tennis, or let's play soccer. What's really interesting is that those games are really hard to excel at in a pickup fashion. Unless you have some sort of like native or practice skill, it can be really alienating if and it could really be impactful if you cannot participate in this play. So I would just suggest thinking very carefully about, listen, everyone loves soccer, basketball, hockey, what have you, but like it necessarily leaves kids out. And I don't mean kids who are not interested in it, like kids who are afraid to do it because one, like you mentioned, Travis, their physical fitness isn't there to be quote unquote good enough, or they just don't have the skill. Therefore, the people who do on the field aren't playing with them. I don't see the upside for a lot of those things unless you specifically advertise it to the population of your camp who like plays soccer on the weekends or is in a league or etc.
I like it. So I think for me, I'm like, I have an evil smile on my face because I like thinking of our campers as future staff members. And so we did create the very expensive program a couple of years ago, which is called Culinary. And we built a gorgeous building. It's a multi-purpose building that during the day, there's a small room for our staff that are on their days off, but in the evening, the whole place opens up. So we have a staff lounge, a kitchen, a teaching kitchen that's gorgeous, a main sort of play area, and a loft. This was a huge expense, and Culinary is full, and every single camper wants to do Culinary. So I just want to fast forward. So this is about 5 years ago. I just want to fast forward to last year. 5-6 years ago. Last year, the amount of camp counselors that applied to work in our kitchen went from 0 to approximately 600%. of people that want to work in our kitchen. Now that
Stunning.
means it's basically 6 people. But what I'm not good at math. Please don't check me.
I was going to say, I was like, I don't know if math works that way.
But
Gabz,
it does
we
work
hear
that way,
you.
Chris. It does. In my brain, but let's just put it this way. Nobody's ever applied for kitchen. And we have people that are from our camper program, from our CIT program, that have either been a staff member during culinary or has experienced culinary as a camper that is interested in working on our kitchen. So this for me, I think there's something in there. So one of the programs that I think it's not just about helping your camp out in the future, but I think it's what's really appealing to our staff members. And I think and the value system of our staff members, I think it's appealing to a lot of families as well. And fun for campers is programs such as like Fix It or Stitch It, so learning how to fix things, wire stuff, the dang pants, like, I don't know, the thigh gap area, like that gets worn out all the time. How do you fix that? All of these things that are basic skills that are really helpful when you go into young adulthood or even older adulthood. These are some skills I don't have and I'm developing myself right now. Learning at a young age not only is exciting and fun, and it's environmentally friendly, and it's thinking about slow fashion instead of like ditching fashion, and fixing stuff, I think also will help your camp for the people that are maybe interested in doing maintenance and being problem solvers. It's one of the things that so many of camp directors that I hear right now that are frustrated with staff not being problem solvers. But if we have a bunch of pants that are ripped and we have here's some sewing equipment, how would you fix this? Try, it doesn't matter. These pants and they're problem solving and they're doing it. And it's kind of exciting. So this could be run with a staff member that has a little bit of knowledge, but has a yes can attitude and instills that upon your kids. But I can just tell you that our kitchen program, our actual kitchen, has benefited from the very expensive culinary kitchen that we developed. But I think a Fix It / Stitch It type of activity, very low cost, but can have great benefits.
I love it. Joe, welcome back. We're grateful to have you. We're going to give the final word to you.
Final word on programs for the future. It's funny, for the past 10 days, and today is day 10, I've been partaking in a simulation of the future. So 10 years into the future, 2033, in a zero waste future where the municipalities don't allow you to put out garbage or recyclables, only consumable things. And it's fascinating when we think about programs for the future, how earlier on, Travis, you were mentioning change and the things that we need to accommodate for and plan for. And I think that a lot of the programs, when I think about the future, is summer camps can be the wedge that gets kids thinking about the things that will help them in the future, the problem solving, the way the world's going to change, potential changes, right? Like in potential scenarios that we might go through. I love the idea of self-reliance, so learning basic skills that were no longer taught. But I also love the idea of like homesteading basics, right? Like how to make your own things, how to grow your own food, reusing and upcycling, and really community building, giving them programs where they will understand that they're part of a community, and that being part of a community is better than not being part of a community. But I love the idea of this future simulation that I'm doing through a tool of the week that I mentioned last year at some point, which was the Institute for the Future. And I'm working through Urgent Optimist right now, which is a subscription model, that I pay for. But it is fascinating to see other people's idea of the future, and it brings programs to mind about how do we institute some idea of a zero waste system, like in the late 80s and early 90s when camp directors were instituting a zero food waste system, right? Like the ideas that were very far ahead of their time. And that's where we need to be. So I think some of those programs, I think the idea of building, programs that cost tens of thousands of dollars is, you're going to be carrying those costs for years if you do it that way. I think that there's other programs, and what people need when you get back to basics are they need to be able to talk to people, they need to be able to problem solve, and they need to be able to make friends. And I think that programs that are community-based, that teach people actual skills that they can that can help them find what their passion is in life as well and what they might want to do, I think those programs are invaluable. And it's how we sell those programs, and that this is what we do to Camp Our Parents. So that's sort of my take on it.
A good pin to put in this. So thank you very much for that. So now it is time for us to move on to our tool of the week. Chris, I am feeling sore and need a little help. Do you have an idea for me?
Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see me like stretching and moving my neck. I routinely throw out my back. There's like one spot in my back that I can feel. It's happening right now. It's like twinging. It gets really, really tight. And then 2 days from now, I'll be flat on my back on the floor, groaning and screaming, hoping that someone finds me before a cat eats my face. So if you want to avoid that fate, I would suggest getting a back foam roller. It's saving my life. It's the only thing that's stopping cats from eating my face. Look, I am a person of a certain age, and that age is old. And the thing that I'm learning is that mobility is key. And you got to take care of your body, especially because, look, not for nothing, I've been doing this for a long time. I keep getting older, but the kids never do. They stay 7 to 17, and I have to try and catch up with them. And so listen, fitness in general, but you can't go wrong with a foam roller. I like the trigger point one, but you know what? Just any foam roller will do. Getting into the habit of rolling out your back or any muscles that hurt, oh my God, it will save you so much time. And like I said, you will avoid the aforementioned tragedy of having a cat eat your face.
Good. We would not want that problem.
No, absolutely not.
No one wants that problem. I often wonder why people are so scared of New York City, and maybe it's just all Chris's stories. All Chris's worst case scenarios.
It's the feral carnivorous cats. People are staying away. They're like, I'll throw out my back. A cat will eat me. Help.
There you go. All right. So Gab, what's yours?
Mine is an app called Finch, and it's a quote unquote self-care widget pet. Basically, you set your own goals, your little virtual pet. Mine is a little penguin, chats with you throughout the day or if just in the morning. And every time you communicate, the widget pet gets either a sweater or a scarf or a heart balloon, and then they get to go on adventures and meet other widget pets. And they say hi and they build friendships. And what I like about this is that there's no negative consequence. Like the pet doesn't lose the scarf that's keeping them warm on a coldy day. They get to keep it. So as somebody that comes and goes from apps that help me take care of myself or reflect on myself, different programs, I've learned that I have to be okay with, I will stick to something until I don't. And then with this piece with Finch, I can stick with it and ignore it for 3 months and then come back. And it's just like, oh, hi, there you are. And then, did you do your stretches this morning? Is that what you're into today? And there's no guilt. And I get to say hi to my pet, whose name is Daisy.
Excellent. I love that, Gab. Say hi to Daisy. And it's nice that it's not like Tamagotchi where there can be terrible endings.
There's a trauma, I think, for a lot of people with the Tamagotchis. So that's why I want to insist your Finch is okay.
That is great. That's great. My tool of the week is a Go Camp Pro program, and I know this is a bit self-serving, and apologies for that, but I was so excited to watch this week's videos that came out for 5 Minute Friday subscribers. Chris is doing some great work, and our buddy Alyssa, who we both have done some great videos in the last couple weeks on welcoming neurodivergent staff, and both of them have been very thoughtful, and I'm really excited about them. You get Michael Brandwine delivered to your email box weekly, which I think is worth the price of price of admission alone, but there's lots of great stuff. The one video I want to talk about today, Liz Ramirez is giving us the MBA student's perspective on being a camp leader, and she's doing her MBA right now. And she's sharing lots of things that she's learning to help us be better at the business side of things. But today, this week's video was Liz explaining and showing us walking us through how to use some of the online AI stuff that I used before. ChatGPT was one of my tools of the week before, but Liz is talking about how to use this to make your camp life easier, how to make writing emails, marketing stuff easier. Believe me, I know that camp people hate doing marketing stuff. It's been the reason I have a business. But it really can make it easier. And so if you sign up, there's no commitment. You can come in for a month at a time, and you get to check out all the past videos. If you're a subscriber, you also get a free podcast just for subscribers, so that you get the shows delivered to you either in video or in audio form. And for Liz's video this week is my favorite highlight. There are so many other good things that I don't have time to articulate, but yeah, that's 5 Minute Fridays. I encourage you to check that out. Now, I picked people in the wrong order because we lost Joe again. His internet COVID is coming and going today. So I can do some justice to Joe's pick because I think it's a good one. Check out Chris Calvert, who has done lots of awesome adventure programming stuff, outdoor education, adventure things, lots of great resources. And Joe is asking us, encouraging us to check out Chris's website, Fun Doing Fridays. Guess what? Lots of Fridays tools today. Chris's is Fun Doing Fridays. You can check out the link to that and get all the information you need by going to camphacker.tv/podcasts and looking up our show notes there. Before I say goodbye to everybody, I want to take a second and thank our other sponsor, UltraCamp. UltraCamp has been a great sponsor for CampHacker in the last couple of years, and we're super grateful to them. And the thing with UltraCamp is they understand that that your life shouldn't, you want it to not be bound to the office doing admin stuff. And so they've built a tool to help you do that, help you get out of the office and get doing things, focusing on the reason why you got into the camp world. This is a way to take away the paperwork and make things easier because you could share the work and you have a platform that's flexible and affordable as it is powerful, so you can keep your program moving forward. UltraCamp gives you pricing that is transparent and flexible, so you can rest easy and focus on your kids. It gives you low minimum entry cost, clear pricing, no hidden costs, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love. If you want to know if UltraCamp is right for you, they offer a free customized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. But at that same link is something I really want you to encourage. I want to encourage you to think about, look at, and download for free. They have made for CampHacker listeners the staff communication calendar. It includes a lot of pre-written prompts for you to communicate with your staff, and give you the things to make that part of your job easier too. So on top of running your camp, it also some good communication stuff with camp. So we want to thank UltraCamp. We're grateful for their support of the CampHacker podcast for all of these years, and yeah, and we're thankful. We are coming to the end, so I want to take just a second and encourage you to check out one more Go Camp Pro podcast, Fundraising at Camp. Joe and I did this show with our friend Heather. We're not making new episodes right now, but the episodes are really great if you are in fundraising mode, especially if you're heading into big development season for your camp as the new year has rolled around. Check out Fundraising at Camp. You can find it just by searching for that on a podcast app, and it will get you some great ideas. Joe's great at breaking this stuff down. Heather's got lots of awesome experiences, and I just get to play the dumb guy in this one and ask the questions. So check out Fundraising at Camp. I want to thank Chris and Gab for everything that they have done and shared on this show. I want to thank Joe for his perseverance for being here and getting back on fighting through internet COVID. And I want to thank you for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, I'll wave to you. If you're listening on your car or on your walk, then we're grateful that you have taken time to let us into your ears. Thanks for the evening, friends.